Hello, good morning, dear students. Welcome back to your third sem BCom class. That is called as QABD. Where in this QABD, you people are going to have 5 units. The unit 1 is relating to correlation and regression analysis. The second unit is of time series. The third unit is belonging to interpolation and extrapolation. Fourth is sampling and sampling distribution. And the last one is theory of probability. These are the 5 units you people are going to have. And this time you people have to write offline exam. So you'll not be excused from the examination. So be serious for the examination. Any one of you can unmute and say, can you see the slide? Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You can see,
My
ma'am.
voice is audible for you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I'll request all the students to unmute their audio when you people are there in the class. See, in the QABD 1, we people have studied some of the statistical methods of measures of central tendency, dispersion, skewness. They are all helpful for the purpose of comparison and analysis of distribution. Where it is involving only one variable, we call it as univariate distribution. But sometimes we are going to come across certain series where each item of the series may assume the values of two or more variables. So numerical data, when we are going to compare in pairs with two variables, the distribution in which each unit of the series are assuming two values is called as bivariate distribution. When we are going to have a study of only one variable, when we will calculate for the calculation of mean, median, right, the dispersion values, there we used to go for study of only one variable. But in case of correlation, we have to go for the study of two variables. Correlation is nothing but correlation, the relationship between two variables. Means the relationship between what kind of variables means it is of only homogeneous in nature. The characteristic feature should be same. When we are going to compare with human being means another one pair should be human itself. When we are going to compare with the variables or the factors, the relationship, there must be a kind of relationship existence can be seen. Such kind of variables only have we can able to measure with the help of statistical method. And this correlation is a statistical technique which studies the relationship between two or more variables. But correlation analysis, when we are going to do the analysis or the in-depth study, how means it is going to involve the various methods and the techniques which are used for the study of measurement or the extent of relationship between the two variables. That is called as correlation analysis. Just a minute. It is correlation analysis means the various methods, the techniques which are used for studying and measuring the extent of relationship, to what degree of relationship that we are going to come across between the two variables. In the later slide, we are going to see the interpretation between the two variables, how we are going to compare, when we are going to compare and when we calculate the relationship. So the degree we are going to be measured, to what extent the relationship is going to be existed between the two variables by using the methods and techniques, it is called as correlation analysis. Simply we can say that correlation means a reciprocal or a parallel or a complementary relationship between two or more comparable objects. Be clear that the objects or the factors or the measuring values, when we are going to consider for the calculation of correlation, it must be homogeneous in nature. It should not be having, the relation cannot be exist restricted between the heterogeneous in nature. So if it is heterogeneous, there will be no kind of relationship can be seen. So it cannot be measurable with the help of the statistical tools. So correlation is nothing but the relationship between the two variables where it is possible to have comparison. We can able to measure with the help of comparison, or it is nothing but the analysis of where we are going to analyze with the methods, or where we are going to analyze the data between the about the two variables, or the differences of the two variables, or the variations which is happening in the under the study between the two or more variables. Then it is called as the correlation. When we are going to use this correlation, for what all the purpose this correlation can be used means, we can able to measure this correlation with the help of this correlation, the covariance. Co means two variables or two variations can be measured. The extent of variation, the degree of variation can be measured very easily with the help of correlation. And also when we are going to measure the relationship between the two variables, we are going to say the value in one single figure. For example, we say it is 0.99, or either it may be of plus or it may be of minus. So with one single value, we can able to say the relationship between the two variables. That is possible in the case of correlation. And with the help of this correlation, it is possible to measure, it is possible to estimate the future value of variables. When we are going to frame the budgets or the estimates, the future values means only on the based of assumption, the future values are considered or taken under the study. With the help of this variables variations which is going to happen only under assumption, the future values can also be measured with the help of this correlation. And this correlation will helps to build or to have an estimated cost. Estimated cost means like a budgeted cost. It is pre-cost. It is not the actual cost. Or we can able to have an estimated sales or estimated prices can be depicted very easily with the help of the variations which is going to be taken place in the future. This is also possible in with the help of correlation, and we can able to predict economic variables. For example, when you are going to see in case of inflation economy, in the case of deflation economy, how the variables are interdependent to each other. So with that also we can able to solve the things with the help of correlation. And when we see this correlation, there are different types of correlation we are going to come across. One is positive and negative correlation. Another one is a simple and multiple correlation, partial and total correlation. The next category is the linear and non-linear, or and logical and illogical correlation. What do you mean by this positive correlation? Positive in the sense that you should assume that the directions, either the variables have to move in one particular direction. One particular direction means either it has to move in upward direction, or both the variables should move in downward direction. If the variables are moving in the variable should have the movement of direction under one particular way or in the same direction. If both the variables are moving in the same direction, then it is called as positive correlation. If one variable increases, means it assumes that the other variable also increasing in case of positive correlation. If one variable is having the decrease, it is in the form of decrease what direction, or in the form of downward direction, means we can say that other variable is also in the form of downward direction. Means the direction or the movement of variable should be in one particular way. That is called as positive correlation. And the second kind is called as negative correlation. Negative is totally opposite to the positive correlation. The movement of directions of the variables in different way. If one variable increases, means simultaneously in negative correlation we can see that the other variable, if it is increasing one variable, means in the other way the other variable is in the form of decreasing. For example, we can say if the price keeps on increasing, means the demand for the value suddenly it will be can able to see in the downward direction. That is called as negative correlation. The movement of directions of the values are in opposite manner, that is called as negative correlation. And the next type of correlation, that is called as a simple correlation and multiple correlation. In case of simple correlation, we are going to have a study of only two variables, right? The study of only two variables, it is called as simple correlation. So where we can able to determine the strength and the direction of the relationship between the two variables. Among number of variables, among number of factors, when we under our study, if we are going to consider only two variables, it is called as simple correlation. And the next type of correlation, that is called as multiple correlation. Multiple means many in number, more than three or more than three variables. When we are going to have under a study, when we are going to predict a kind of relationship between the number of variables, if we are going to consider many number of factors under our study, many number of variables if we are going to have under our study, then such kind of variables or such kind of relationship which is being existed between all the variables, it is called as multiple correlation. If under our study, if you are going to take only two variables, it is called as simple correlation. Under our study, if you are going to have all the factors are being considered for our study, it is called as multiple correlation. And the next type of correlation, that is called as partial correlation. Partial means a part of the whole. Means in case of partial correlation, when there are more than two variables and the relationship of only two of the variables are going to be studied. See, in case of simple correlation, we are going to have a study of only two variables. But in the case of partial correlation, among the number of correlation, if we are going to have a study of only two variables, a part of the variables are going to be considered. For our study, it is called as partial correlation. And the next is called as total correlation. What do you mean by this total correlation? Means when the correlation between all the variables under our study are taken together for measuring covariance is called as total correlation. When the correlation of all the variables are going to be considered. So such kind of correlation are called as total correlation. And the next category is called as linear correlation. Linear means one variable. If the change in one variable is accompanied by the change in another variable in a constant ratio. Be clear, the term should be in a constant ratio. Means for example, when we are going to see some of the variables 200, 400, 600, right? 800, 1000. See the increasing values are of only 200. The ratio between one number or one variable with the another variable, the change in the variables, if it is having a constant ratio, then such kind of correlation is called as a linear correlation. If the ratio of change in one variable tends to bear a constant ratio of change in another variable, then the correlation is said to be linear. And quite opposite to that, that is called as non-linear correlation. If the amount of change in one variable does not follow a constant ratio with the change in another variable, if there is no constant ratio between the variables, fluctuations, variables, variations, such kind of correlation is called as non-linear correlation. If there is a constant ratio between the variables, it is called as linear correlation. If there is no constant ratio between the variables, when the change is going to happen, when the variations are going to be occur, when the differences are going to be seen, if there is no constant changes can be seen, such kind of correlation is called as non-linear correlation. And the next last category, that is called as logical and illogical correlation. What do you mean by this logical correlation? Logical correlation is nothing but when the relationship between the two variables is not mathematically defined but logically sound. They are called as logical correlation. For example, correlation between the price and demand for a product, or correlation between the price of petrol and sale of vehicles. We can say if the petrol prices increases, what happens? to the sale of vehicles, or the sale of vehicles is quite increasing, we can say that petrol price may decreases. When we are going to have a relationship between these two, it must be logically sound, right? Or it can be mathematically defined and also logically sound. Such kind of correlation is called as logical correlation. When quite opposite to that, when the relationship between two unrelated variables, here it is not an homogeneous characteristics we can see, it is called as heterogeneous characters in the case of illogical correlation. For example, we can say that the relationship between the production of cars and the production of mobile phones. Can we say that due to increase in the purchase of mobile phones, the production of cars has come down? No, it is illogical. We can't able to detect or we can't able to depict the relationship between the two unrelated variables. When we are going to frame the relationship, the variables should be of same characteristic features, same nature. Then only we can say whether it is a logical or illogical correlation. So these are all the different types of correlation. And this is one of the chart where you people have to write or you have to give a conclusion for the questions when they are going to ask in the examination. There are some of the interpretation values are being given and what it is going to be seen or what it is going to be called, we can able to see. See, the correlation coefficient is always measured with an alphabet that is called as small r. When r is equals to 1, exact value, the value of r if you are going to get, then it is called as perfect positive correlation. ನಮಗೆ r ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ 1 ಬಂದಿದೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಗೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಂಥ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. r value exact agi -1 bandide, the r value of r is exactly -1, then we'll say it is called as perfect negative correlation. If the r value is falling in the range of positive, this is plus 0.75 and plus 1, if it is falling in the range of 0.75 to 1, then it is called as high degree positive correlation. If it is falling in the range of minus 0.75 to minus 1, then we'll say that the correlation is a high degree negative correlation. If the value of r, what will get the answer, if it is in the range of 0.25 to 0.75, we call it as moderate degree positive correlation. If it is in the form of minus 0.25 to minus 0.75, then it is called moderate degree negative correlation. Or when the value of r is in between 0 to 0.25, that is plus, we call it as low degree positive correlation. If the value of r falls in the range of 0 to minus 0.25, we call it as low degree negative correlation. If the value of r is exactly 0, there we can able to see the kind of variables, nothing but unrelated variables we call it as, then there will be no correlation at all between the variables. We can able to say very clearly, see, these are all the range of the values where we can able to see in our answers, and the conclusion, what to write for that value has been given exactly quite opposite to the right side here. That value, that when you see the answer in the nodadaga, you can have to write the conclusion whether the relation between, for example, x and y, two variables, means what kind of relationship is existed. If it is 0.99 or 0.99 or 0.26 or 0.27, like this, whether it is plus or minus, what you are going to be called, the ultimate answer has to be right there. And the next kind here, it is called some of the methods of correlation that we people are going to come across. There are usually we are having 5 methods. The first is scatter diagram method, second one is graphic method, third one is Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation, the fourth one is Spearman's rank correlation, concurrent deviation method. These are the 5 methods of correlation, but according to your syllabus, you people have to study the third and the fourth one. One is Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation, you people have to study, and the next one is Spearman's rank correlation. ಈ ಎರಡು ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರನೇ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು, ಆ ಎರಡು ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಗೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. Let us will see what is this Karl Pearson's coefficient of correlation. ಏನ್ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಲ್ ಪಿಯರ್ಸನ್ಸ್ ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ correlation? It is nothing but a statistical measure where we are going to use for two continuous variables to study about the magnitude of the association as well as the direction of the relationship. To what extent the relationship is being existed, that we are going to study with the help of Pearson's coefficient of correlation ಮುಖಾಂತರ. ಕಾರ್ಲ್ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಅವನು. ಕೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕಾರ್ಲ್ ಪಿಯರ್ಸನ್ಸ್ ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕಾರ್ಲ್ ಪಿಯರ್ಸನ್ಸ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಪಿಯರ್ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ರ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ಗೆ ಸ್ಪಿಯರ್ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಯಾವ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅದೇ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿ. And in case of correlation coefficient calculate, when we are going to calculate both actual mean method and also assumed mean method we have to follow. But for the calculation and for the substitution of the values in the formula, we have to substitute only deviation values. Deviation anta andre illa ಒಂದು x minus actual mean ಅಥವಾ y minus y actual mean or x minus a ಅಥವಾ y minus a. ಈ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರನೇ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಯಾವುದು ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾಗೆ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ದಿಸ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಕೀಪ್ ಇನ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ದ correlation coefficient that we are going to denote with the small r. So we have to consider only deviation value. No actual values are being substituted in the formula. Here the value of r in case of actual mean, r is equals to sigma xy divided by root of sigma x square into sigma y square. ಇದು ಸಹ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್. ಈ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಬಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ ನ ನಾವು ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತದ್ದು. ವೈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಬಂದು ವೈ ಮೈನಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ ನ ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ ವೈ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಏನ್ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವೋ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್. ಟೋಟಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸಿಗ್ಮಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ವೈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಸಹ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ವೈ ಅದು ಸಿಗ್ಮಾ ವೈ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್. ಸೊ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ತಗೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಒಂದು ಸಹ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನಂತರ ನಾವು ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾನ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಲೆಟ್ us will see one of the question here. So find the correlation coefficient between sales and advertisement expenditure from the following data ಅಂತಾನೆ. ಒಂದು ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಅಡ್ವರ್ಟೈಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್. ನೋಡಿ ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ 65 ಇಂದ 73 ವರೆಗೂ ಇದೆ. ಅಡ್ವರ್ಟೈಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್ಸ್ 66, 64, 64, 7, 67, 71, 69, 70, 68 ಮತ್ತೆ 70 ಈ ರೀತಿ 2 ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಈಗ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಅಜ್ಯೂಮ್ಡ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಟೋಟಲ್ 7 ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕು. ಕೀಪ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಮೈಂಡ್, ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ವೈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್, ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ವೈ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವೈ ನಂತರ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ವೈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಕಾಲಮ್. ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ 65, 66 ಅಪ್ ಟು 73 ಇದನ್ನ ಅಲಾಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೀವಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ವೈ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೇನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ, ಸೊ ಆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಸಹ ಆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಲಾಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. ಇದು ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಯು ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ of x, what is the actual mean of y. We know that the mean value, that is arithmetic mean, is nothing but sigma x by n. So total ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ sigma x, that is nothing but 621 ಮತ್ತೆ sigma y total ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ 612 ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಇದು ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ನಂತರ ನಾವು ಮೀನ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗೋದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಮೀನ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ಮಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಬೈ ಎನ್ ಇಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ಸ್ ಟು 621 ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ 9. ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ಅದು 69 ಬಂದಿದೆ. ವೈ ಮೀನ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ಮಾ ವೈ ಬೈ ಎನ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ಸ್ 612 ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ 9 is 68. Now we have to deduct the value x minus actual mean. ಈ 65 ನ 69. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸು ನಮಗೆ ಮೀನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಏನ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ, ಮೈನಸ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಮೈನಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ. ಹಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್. ಸೊ 65 minus 69 minus 4 ಮತ್ತೆ minus 3 minus 2 minus 1 0 1 2 3 4 ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. -4 into -4 16, -3 into -3 is 9, 2 into 2 is 4, 1 into 1 is 1. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಟೋಟಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Same manner we have to calculate the deviation of y values also, that is y minus actual mean. Already we calculated the value of y mean is nothing but 68. Now we should go for the actual values, that is 66 minus 68, 67 minus 68 ಈ ರೀತಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಮೀನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ, ನಾವು ಮೈನಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಡಿಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಬರೀರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಮೈನಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮೈನಸ್. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಂತರ ಅದೇ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಫ್ರೇಮ್ಡ್ ಟೋಟಲ್ 7 ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್. ಅದು ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಪಿಯರ್ಸನ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಅಜ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮೀನ್. ಟೋಟಲ್ 7 ಕಾಲಮ್ಸ್ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹಾಕೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ನಂತರ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವೈ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್. ಇದು ನಾವೇನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಮೈನಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಬಾರ್, ವೈ ಮೈನಸ್ ವೈ ಬಾರ್ ನ ಡಿಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀವೋ ಆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. -4 ಇಂಟು -2, ಮೈನಸ್ ಇಂಟು ಮೈನಸ್ ಪ್ಲಸ್, 4 ಇಂಟು 2 is 8, ಮೈನಸ್ ಇಂಟು ಮೈನಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಪ್ಲಸ್, 3 ಇಂಟು 1 is 3. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ನಾವು ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಟೋಟಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಒಂದು ನಮಗೆ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಒಂದು y², ಒಂದು y², ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸಿಗ್ಮಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವೈ. ಸೊ ದ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸೊ r equals sigma xy divided by square root of sigma x² into sigma y². ಸೊ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವೈ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 33 ಇದೆ, x² is 60 ಮತ್ತೆ y² is 40. ಸೊ 33 ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ ರೂಟ್ ಆಫ್ 60 into 40, 2400. ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ರೂಟ್ ನ ರಿಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಮಗೆ ಬರುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ 48.99. ಮತ್ತೆ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ 33 ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ 48.99 ಬಂದು the value of correlation is 0.6736. ಈ 0.6736 ಅನ್ನೋಂತಹ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಎಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 0.67 ಅನ್ನೋಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾವ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟೇ ಅದು ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್. ಇದು ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಸೈನ್ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಮೈನಸ್ ಸೈನ್ ಇದೆಯಾ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಇದು ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಸೈನ್ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು. 0.67 ಬರುವಂತದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನಮಗೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ 0.25 ಇಂದ 0.75 ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮಾಡರೇಟ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಷನ್ ನಾವು ಬರಿಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಅನ್ನ. ದೇರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಎ ಕಾರಲೇಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಯಾವ್ದಿದೆ, ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಡ್ವರ್ಟೈಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್ ನಡುವೆ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದ ಟೂ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ we are going to have a correlation, nothing but a moderate degree correlation is being existed between a sales and advertisement expenditure. So this is how we are going to calculate the correlation. In the same manner, second problem also is given. Calculate the correlation coefficient between price and demand ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೇ ರೀತಿ ನೀವು ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕಾಲಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೈಸ್, we are assuming x as price and y as what demand values. So write as it is what they have given in the question, then do the deviation of x, do the x² values, then multiply the x values, deviation values will become x², then do the deviation of y, then square it, it will become y², then multiply these two x into y values columns na multiply ಮಾಡಿ we'll get the values. At last we have to total all the columns, then substitute the value in the formula. That is nothing but sigma xy divided by root of sigma x² into y². ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅಜ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮೀನ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ಅಜ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮೀನ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಆರ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಮೀನ್ ಮೆಥಡ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ ಏನ್ ನಾವು PPT ನ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ನ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ನೋಟ್ ಬುಕ್ ನ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಅದು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಮೋರ್ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ಸಹ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಾಟ್ಸ್ಆಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಇರೋವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ಅದನ್ನ ನೀಟಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಬರೆದ್ಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ 2 ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ಅದನ್ನ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಸಹ ಇದೆ, ಆ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಸಹ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿರೋವಂಥದ್ದೇ ಇದೆ, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನ ಬರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೇಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ದ correlation with the help of actual mean method. Next class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು assume mean method ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. Have you people followed this one? How to calculate? 15 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಈ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿದೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ?
Yes ma'am.
ಓಕೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮೀನ್ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಬರೆದು ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಈ PPT ಹಾಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡೋವಂಥದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ತೆಗೆದು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಅದನ್ನ ಬರೆದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ನ ನಾವೇನು ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ಇರೋವಂಥದ್ದು ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋವಂಥದ್ದಾಗ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವು ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋವಂಥದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಆ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಈ ಸತಿ ಯಾವುದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಕ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಗೆ ಕಂಪಲ್ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಆಫ್ಲೈನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, ma. Thank you. We'll see you once again in the next class. I'll intimate you. Okay.
PDF send ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ?
ಏನಪ್ಪಾ?
PPT send ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ?
I'll send both recording as well as PPT. ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಬಿಡಿ. ಇನ್ನ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಅಂಥದ್ದು, ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಅಂಥದ್ದು, ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಐ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಟ್ಸ್ಆ್ಯಪ್, ರೈಟ್. ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆಪ್ಪ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.